The rain fell softly over the marble steps of the charity hospital, the kind of rain that didn't scream but whispered, soaking into clothes and bones alike, and standing just beyond the iron gate was a small barefoot boy no older than 12, clutching a folded piece of paper with hands that trembled not from the cold but from fear, because behind him, on a rusted wheelchair with one broken wheel locked in place by a stone, sat a young girl with lifeless legs draped in a thin blanket, her face pale yet calm, eyes fixed on the hospital doors as though hope itself might walk out if she stared long enough, and when the black luxury car rolled to a stop beside the curb, its engine humming like something alive, the boy swallowed hard, because he knew this was his only chance, and chances were things poor boys like him almost never got twice. The driver stepped out first, umbrella snapping open, followed by a tall man in an expensive coat, silver hair neatly combed, his expression sharp and distant, the kind of man whose time was measured in numbers and whose patience had long ago been replaced by power, and this was Jonathan Hale, a self-made millionaire known for his ruthless business deals and carefully curated acts of public charity, a man who donated millions but rarely looked anyone in the eye while doing so, and as he moved toward the hospital entrance, the boy stepped forward, heart pounding so loudly he was sure the man could hear it over the rain, and in a voice barely strong enough to survive the moment, he said, "Sir, please, can you help us?" Jonathan stopped, more out of annoyance than compassion, turning slowly as his driver frowned and subtly shook his head, but something about the boy's eyes, too old, too desperate, made him pause, and he looked past the child to the girl in the wheelchair, taking in the scene with the detached assessment of a man used to evaluating assets and liabilities, and he sighed, already reaching into his pocket, because this was how these things usually went. Money exchanged for silence, guilt settled. Like a bill paid late, but before he could speak, the boy blurted out words that froze him in place, words so unexpected they cut through the rain like glass. "She can walk," the boy said. Jonathan's hand stopped mid-motion, his fingers still touching the leather of his wallet, and he frowned. "What?" "My sister," the boy continued, his voice shaking but growing stronger, fueled by desperation, "she can walk, your fiancé won't let her." The rain seemed to fall louder then, the world narrowing to the space between them, and Jonathan felt something twist in his chest, not sympathy, not anger, but shock, because no one, absolutely no one, spoke his fiancée's name in accusations like that, especially not a poor, half-starved child standing outside a charity hospital, and yet the boy stood firm, eyes locked onto his, as if daring him not to listen. "That's a very serious thing to say," Jonathan replied coldly, his voice regaining its authority, but his heart was no longer steady, and a very stupid lie. "It's not a lie," the boy said quickly, stepping aside so Jonathan could see the girl more clearly. "She walked before. She ran. She danced. Then they took her to the clinic your fiancé owns, and after that, they said she would never walk again." The girl lowered her gaze, shame flickering across her face like a shadow passing over the sun, and Jonathan felt his stomach tighten, because his fiancée, Eleanor Cross, was not just a socialite or a lover, she was a respected philanthropist, founder of multiple private clinics, adored by the media, praised for her work with the poor, and soon to be his wife, a woman whose smile had convinced him that kindness could exist alongside ambition, and yet here was a boy claiming she had taken something as sacred as a child's ability to walk and locked it away. Why would she do that? Jonathan asked, his tone sharp, defensive, but also unwillingly curious. The boy hesitated, glancing at his sister, then back at Jonathan. "Because she needed her legs," he said. Jonathan laughed once, short and humorless. "That makes no sense." "It will," the boy replied softly, "if you listen." Against his better judgment, against his schedule, against the voice in his head telling him this was nonsense, Jonathan nodded toward a nearby bench under the awning. 5 minutes, he said. "That's all you get." The boy didn't waste a second. He told him everything, about their life in the old district, about their parents who died in a factory fire no one paid for, about his sister Lena who used to dance in the streets for coins, about the free clinic that promised treatment, and about Eleanor Cross herself, who smiled gently as doctors ran tests, who insisted Lena would be helped, and who signed papers they couldn't read, and then, one morning, Lena woke up unable to move her legs, the doctors claiming it was a rare neurological condition, incurable, tragic, unavoidable, and yet weeks later, the boy overheard a conversation, whispered in a hallway, about donors, compatibility, and a perfect match. Jonathan felt his pulse quicken despite himself. "You expect me to believe my fiancée crippled your sister for some transplant fantasy?" "No," the boy said, shaking his head, tears finally spilling, "I expect you to believe she chose who deserved to walk." The rain slowed, as if the sky itself was listening, and Jonathan stood abruptly, anger flaring. "Enough," he snapped. "I've heard enough." He turned to leave, but as he did, Lena spoke for the first time, her voice calm, steady, and devastating. "She told me," Lena said quietly, "that some people are meant to stand, and some are meant to kneel, and that I should be grateful she let me live." Jonathan stopped. Those words echoed in his mind with Eleanor's voice, perfect and polished, repeating them almost exactly during a private dinner months ago when she spoke about necessary sacrifices, and for the first time since meeting her, doubt cracked the image he had built, and as he turned back, looking at the girl in the wheelchair not as a charity case but as a human being, he realized something terrifying. If this was true, then the woman he was about to marry was not just hiding secrets, she was hiding crimes. And as the boy knelt suddenly in the rain, gripping Jonathan's coat with trembling hands and whispering, "Please, sir, you're the only one who can make her walk again," Jonathan Hale, the man who controlled markets and men, felt utterly powerless, because for the first time in his life, money couldn't buy certainty, and love might be the most dangerous investment he had ever made. Jonathan Hale could not sleep that night, because the boy's words echoed in his mind louder than any boardroom argument ever had, and for the first time he began watching Eleanor not as a loving fiancée but as a question waiting to be answered, noticing the pauses in her smiles, the careful way she avoided certain names, the clinics she controlled too tightly, and as he quietly started digging into sealed medical files and hidden donations, Jonathan realized the terrible truth was not whether Lena could walk again, but how many others had been forced to kneel in silence, and as the storm of secrets gathered, one choice loomed before him: protect the woman he loved or destroy the empire she built on broken live.